What's that?
Your breakfast.
My lord?
Thought you could make yourself a nice little omelette.
I've already had breakfast, my lord. But I suppose I could go for second.
No, stop. I'm only joking, Attila. That egg is not for eating. You're looking at me like I lost my wits. No, tell you what. Put in there your fireplace. Make sure the fire is always smouldering. Maybe put some hay around it too, just to make sure that it keeps warm. Just don't get it burning too much, the fire, or it'll set fire to the hay.
My lord, you want me to hatch an egg for you?
No, not for me. For you. That there is no normal egg. It'll hatch you something very specific. No need to look worried. You'll see. Have some hay brought over and, like I said, make sure the fire doesn't die out or burn too fiercely. Thunderport to my room in an hour. I have an assignment for you.
Klozek, you lazy old lizard. You'd better bloody well keep yourself safe until I come back.
This is Red Moon Role-Playing.
We last left our party as the warlock Kadar was lowering himself into the furnace, clad in a brand new suit, fashioned from human skin, the skin of their former sorceress companion, Dread. Kadar, you are lowering yourself into the furnace, and the heat from it is still almost unbearable, almost prevents you from drawing breath, and yet it is not scorching your skin from the bone. You can see it sizzling, crackling, and popping the skin of Dread that wreathes your body in patches, but it is not cutting through to you.
It's not a pleasant experience. Last thing I would have said was to tell my companions to check Dread. He said he had something on him for escaping. I really hope they're doing that, but unfortunately now I have no time to think on that. As I lower myself then, it's like I'm descending into the furnace then, like climbing into it and then going down, is that right?
Yeah, very much like that bubble well you came through when you entered this dungeon complex. It feels a little like you're passing through a portal again. And as you make your way into the furnace, you find that it has a false bottom, or at least a bottom you can pass through. And so you find yourself sliding down a gentle incline, quite spacious. There's no marks of coal or ash or anything like that to show that any natural substance has been burned in this furnace before, although the heat would certainly imply otherwise. And you slide down and out of sight. What are your companions doing?
I am standing there watching him go down, seeing him disappear, I suppose, into this furnace, casting occasionally worried glances backwards, hoping that Klozek is fine as I left him behind. This has turned into quite the morbid business. I really wonder if that's going to work.
I look to you, Attila, and I say, "Don't worry, Mormo will protect him. We'll be fine. We just have to wait here."
Well, I didn't realize it would go downwards in such a way. I thought it was something we would just be able to walk through. Now is he going to get up there as well?
And I look over to the remains, the bloody remains of Dread the sorcerer, and I say,
"Well, I'm old enough by now to know that something as intricate as this, and us doing something like this, is going to come back and bite us in the arse. I bet we'll need someone just like him in just a few moments, just you see."
And you see a bit of drool going down my mouth as I adjust my eye patch.
Don't worry. You'll be fine. And anyways, all the good treasure is buried at the bottom of holes. My mother always said that.
I'm sure she was wise, and all the better for it.
Oh, she died when I was very young. It was a very unfortunate accident.
Huh. Did she dig her own grave?
Well, I'd rather not talk about it. What did Dredd have on him? He must have had something valuable, right? I mean, just in case our friend doesn't come back, maybe at least we can loot him.
I have been looking a bit in the different pouches and his sack that he's been carrying around. What did we find?
Well, luckily you didn't skin him while he was still clothed, so most of his belongings have remained pretty much immaculate. You find in one of his pouches a set of 5 rings. They're each gold bands, and they have a small blue stone in them. You've never seen the like before. You also find some insignia, a seal for the triangle, his guild. You find his set of weapons. He was armed with several daggers, and it looks like a few poisons and tinctures. Most importantly, at his side, you can see there was a wand that he never got the chance to use. There was a stick that hung down around to his knee, and he was going for it when his throat was cut.
That stick looks valuable. Maybe that's the one that would get him out of here.
I don't know. I know sorcerers want to use these sort of things. I've never been able to activate one myself.
Me neither. I grab the rings and I start putting them on. Nothing bad can happen when I do that, I assume.
No, nothing strange happens when you put the rings on.
I look in my hands and I feel good about the increasing amount of gold. This feels like a positive trend. We're heading in the right direction here. The wealth will increase.
Was he wearing the rings, or were they in his pack?
They were in his bag. Well, a small pouch that was hanging from his belt, just with the rings in.
Well, probably some sort of earlier treasure that he found in some raid or something.
Maybe. I give you one. You should have one too.
I look at it, and is there anything peculiar about it?
The blue gem in the gold band glistens in a way that a room as dark as this should not allow, as if there's a small fire inside it.
There's probably something about this.
I look at it closely.
Might be some sort of magical item.
Most likely.
I look at Thashath as he is taking the rings on, and
Do you feel anything?
Excitement.
We'll have to see if our magic users, if he comes back, will be able to help us identify what they do.
Yeah, I wonder how it's going for Godar down there.
Well, funny you should ask. The descent down the chute isn't a terribly long one, and Kadar finds himself exiting through a large square hole in a wall. Around its rim, there's what looks like brass frame studded into the wall. The room you find yourself in is quite different from the remainder of, what you saw up above. This isn't all sewerage, it's not like the bowels of a foundry either. This is quite a plush chamber. This is no vault that someone has just dumped gold and magical items and jewellery into. This is a well-sorted, well-equipped armoury of goods. If anything, it looks a little like a museum. There's a row of skeletons, several rows, in fact, that mark this chamber, almost like sentinels, and they all have plaques at their feet denoting who these people were. They're all clad in armour and armed with weapons. Likewise, there are shelves and cabinets around this chamber as well, which is lit with a strangely pink hue with no discernible origin. These shelves and cabinets display, quite prominently, weapons, armour, artefacts of historic importance. Not all of them are magical, but certainly to a historian or antiquarian, they would be of a great deal of interest. It would be very easy to overburden oneself and take a little too much, let alone wonder how you're going to get an entire suit of armour back up that shaft.
I look around for a moment with a sense of wonder and victory that we've actually made it. The victory goes away very quickly, because I have no idea how I'm going to get the others through, and I need them through. I can't lift anything beyond maybe one small item. And how am I even going to get back? I'm uncomfortable already in this now burning, sizzling flesh that I'm wearing. I look behind me. There must be something somewhere. There must be a way of turning it off or reversing it or interfering with it. I begin looking for this sort of thing. I don't even step into the room yet. And I try and do this very quietly as well. I don't want to make any noise.
On the wall surrounding the, around the wall surrounding the chute entrance into this room, there are sigils, codes, symbols, similar to the ones you saw in the ceiling of the chamber that brought you here.
My eyes light up a little. Wonderful. Sigils. I understand sigils. I'm going to need to take a moment to study them, but maybe I can find a way of turning it off, or at least interfering with it in some way. Maybe turning it down a little. I don't know, but I'm going to start looking at these sigils very carefully to see how I can interact with them.
Okay, roll an intelligence, please.
And I shall add Arcana.
Yep, please do.
21.
21? That's a good roll. Very good roll. You do recognise the symbols from the ceiling previous, and also you recognise how they were arranged. Now, you're not able to discern what exactly the symbols mean, because what you do know, and this is through bare scratching at ancient lore, some of this language looks to be Slarecian, the language of a long-dead people, perhaps even a people that predated the Titans. Why it would be down here, you're not sure, but you are sure that it is often used in some of the most powerful wardings and planar-related magic. You are pretty confident that if you shift these symbols around, and it wouldn't be difficult to do, just touching one of them, you can see that somehow you can drag them through the wall with your fingertips. You would be able to disrupt or even increase the heat in the chute up above.
But I'm not entirely sure which sigils actually do it. Okay, caution. We have a moment. A little while, anyway. Don't go crazy, Kadar. I'm going to experiment very carefully. We're going to try just one sigil. We're going to gently swap it with another one. And very carefully sort of see if I can see what's happening as I'm doing it, so that if I have to, I can quickly stop doing it.
As you start dragging these symbols through the stone, which is a most peculiar effect, it is as if you are dragging gemstones with touch alone through solid stone and iron, and somehow the heavy elements are parting to allow these inscribed runic gems to move. You feel a buzzing, a sharp static in your mind, almost as if you were bringing two opposing elements close to each other and about to cause some major, disastrous reaction.
Oh, I stop. I stop. I just quickly move it back. Stop.
They move back of their own accord as soon as you take your fingers off of them.
And the buzzing?
The buzzing reduces, subsides, and disappears.
Okay. Not those ones. We want it to not feel catastrophic. Just want a minor effect. I will try another set this time.
As you drag these ones, the feeling is less severe and in fact less internal. It's as if the static is in the room around you. The air itself crackles with energy. Sometimes when you channel magic drawn from the Efreet or even elsewhere, You feel your blood, your cells, your very being about to burst with energy. Maybe that's why magic users don't wear armor. They don't want to electrocute themselves. But with the movement of these Slarecian runes, you can feel the air crackling, as if the entire room is affected by what you're doing.
Well, it occurs to me that if it's going to make the room as hot as the furnace was, I'd actually be okay. I am still wearing this sizzling skin, after all. All right. I close my eyes, and despite everything, I actually say, Mormo, if you've ever been there, bloody give me a chance. And I will complete the rune swap.
The runes click into place with a satisfying thud from each. There is a change in the temperature of the room. It suddenly drops rapidly. You feel quite comfortable, briefly, as you are used to cold temperatures. But then it drops even more sharply. You can suddenly see the breath emitted from your mouth. You have turned this place into a massive walk-in freezer, and it's only getting colder.
I need to try and switch them back. Can I switch them back?
Well, meanwhile, up top, the brave companions standing up by their skinned corpse feel the change in temperature emitted from the furnace. Where it used to be a blast of heat, it's suddenly a blast of freezing cold air, just rushing up this chute and blasting them in the face. It's such a sudden shift that it takes them by surprise. In the case of Attila, all hairs stand on end.
My tufts of hair that I have, and I just instinctively put my hands up towards, in front of my face, towards this blast of cold air. And I say, I think he's done it, though I'm not sure I can't go through such intense cold. Is it that intense? As equally that I would freeze to death if I went into it?
That remains to be seen. Certainly, while you've heard of ice and cold magic before, you and many others believe fire is always the most dangerous element. Fire will crisp skin, send a person into shock, and kill them. Cold is something that can potentially be warmed up.
I think to myself that it didn't take very long for him to go down until this change happened, so surely it cannot be that far down, wherever he is. I look quickly at Shesath, and I say, "This is it, we'll have to go," and I run in, and I throw myself in. I don't have long to live anyways, there's no time hesitating.
And I follow immediately after.
Attila and Thashath jump their way into the furnace, and the icy chill is immediately penetrative. It breaks through their skin, freezes the cells in the upper layer, and deals each of you... Ooh, let's ask for a constitution save from both, please.
I roll a 5.
I roll a natural 1.
As you descend, the icy chill from an elemental plane cuts through you like 1,000 daggers, 1,000 icicle daggers. As... let's see... Thashath, you suffer 12 points of damage. Attila, you suffer 10 points of damage. In literal terms, this is because the moisture in your body freezes as you go through this chute. You are effectively passing through a portal to an elemental plane of cold. And while you do not have the requisite key to enter it, you are still affected by stepping through its maw. When you emerge in the vault, next to your companion, who is also starting to grow cold, but because Kadar has not actually had to pass through the portal himself, he's not suffering any ill effects yet, except he's starting to shiver as he manipulates symbols on a wall. he can see the both of you shaking and, in fact, not shaking, curled up, almost arthritic, in absolute shock at your landing.
I blink in surprise, just as hopefully I then switch back the sigils again to their original positions.
The magic works. The heat is sudden, and it is just as painful, if not more so now, for your two companions, the fact that the temperature in the room shifts so rapidly. No longer exposed to an elemental plane of cold, it is now exposed to the ventilation of an elemental plane of fire. I'll ask for constitution checks from both of them again, please.
8.
24.
Okay, on a 24, no damage is taken as you quickly warm yourself up and feel the benefit for doing so. But on an 8, you take 4 points of damage.
I still feel the feeling of coming in from immense cold and getting heated up, where you feel that your entire skin is sort of burning from the inside as blood suddenly rushes through veins that were previously cramped together out of the sheer cold. And I start jumping up and down, not being immensely uncomfortable with my own skin, and you can see a tiny drop of blood making its way from below the eye patch as I stand there holding myself, not sure what to do. Well, you bloody well made it.
I would reply, but I'm a little alarmed. Do I feel that this vault is now going to actually be as hot as the furnace was?
It does appear to be warming up, yes, so you may want to act quickly.
I didn't tell you to come down yet, you idiots! I'm not finished! Right, I look at the runes. I need to really think carefully. Okay, if that room was cold, and that rune is room, cold, is there a way of maybe instead of moving both the runes, I'd move one of the ones I just moved?
Yep, there was nothing ever restricting you from moving one at a time.
Right. I try the one, well, I guess at random, I have no way of knowing, but I try and guess which one was the temperature one, and try and just move that one.
It's as if you're shifting it on a dial, and it works. You have, on one hand, completely reversed the temperature, and then you cranked it up to the maximum, essentially opening up this gateway to the elemental plane of fire. But now you're shifting it, toning it down. You've finally gained control of this ward. The temperature returns to a stable number, and you are less likely to be incinerated.
It's this one. This one is the it controls the fire and the ice, and if you leave it there, then it's all lovely summer's day. Okay. You two should have waited.
I don't feel so good. I say, as you see, I'm sweating and you see, like, me hardly being able to, like, move my left arm because it's shaking so much.
Well, how could we have known? You know, we didn't know if this was timed. If you got a one-chance window, we didn't know anything. We had to take the chance.
Well, you're here now. Quick, Vasaf, get up. Did he have any potions on him, Dread? Maybe he had a potion for a healing potion or something, or didn't you bring some, either of you two?
No.
You're just gonna have to grin and bear it, Vasaf, I'm sorry. But I do actually look a little concerned, ironically, as I come over and try and check your person, still covered in singed skin.
As the climate changes once more, I feel I'm getting more normal again, and I look around and I see this armory that we're standing in, what we actually have here. And I look at the plaques of the skeletons that are still wearing some bits of, what are they wearing? Like armor, items, different things.
You can see names of, judging from the fact that some of them are attached to ranks, soldiers, some of them knights. There's no dates to imply when they died, but you can see from the states of these skeletons that many of them died violently. Some of them have got cracked open skulls. Some of them have their rib cages shorn open. They've been perfectly well picked clean of their flesh. There's no natural decomposition taking place here, and it appears that their armour has been bolted to the bones where possible. Likewise, weapons have been lashed into their hands, and you're not sure by what sorcery it is that these skeletons are able to stand under that weight. Maybe some kind of necromancy.
Best be careful. Are they of different races? Are they similar?
They are, yes. There's many different races down here. If you're taking the time to look through, you think you're able to identify the skeletons of humans, elves, halflings, even orcs.
And as I go around from them names to names, is there anything that I recognize? I have a little bit of interest in history.
You do recognize some of them. But the most prominent one is Brunus, Lord Commander, known as Brunus the Unsung.
Here he is. It's Brunus. Is he wearing his full plate?
He is. A gleaming plate of white, marked with etchings displaying flame.
This is it. This is our prize.
But wait, what about the... And I start looking around for any shields.
The shield of poppies. It should be here somewhere, right? We need it for our people.
We need to give it to Lady Hara, more importantly, or else we're going to have assassins sent after us. Although at this stage, I don't even know if we're going to... Well, let's see if I can see it anyway. And I start looking for the shield.
This is quite a sizable vault to pick through. What lengths are you going to search through every cabinet? Or are you searching the skeletons to see what they are armed with?
I start looking around the skeletons nearby, but I'm not going to leave the main group. The second it looks like I have to go even deeper into this very large area, I'm going to stop because I don't suddenly now want to activate all sorts of traps.
It's something that hadn't really occurred to you until now. But if you were to make a vault of this size in this organisation, you certainly wouldn't make it easy to steal the contents. Do a wisdom roll, please.
Can I add perception?
You can.
17.
In that case, just on the periphery, at the end of a row of these skeletons, you spot the skeleton of an Asathi. It's not in a prominent place. There's no plaque to denote who it was, but over the arm of this great serpent is the renowned shield of poppies. In the other arm is a scimitar. It's held high as if to strike.
I step over to the skeleton and have a good look at it. But then I stop. Attila? I have a very bad feeling that this lovely vault we've finally reached... It's possible that even though they didn't think anyone could ever get in here, there's still something here. Fasaf, do you see anything?
I'm not sure. I start looking around for, well, some kind of threat. I'm also trying to keep an eye out for any kind of potion or something that might be able to heal me. If any of these adventurers had, some kind of medical bag with them or something of that nature.
In the meantime, I'm relaying what I observed about how they are sort of riveted together, but possibly stood up by magic. There could be necromancy going on here. I don't know if these things will get animated in case we do something.
It's not unheard of. I kind of backtrack a little to actually be by Attila's side as I look at the Mercy armor. Also, I go to one of the shelves. Are the things on the shelves slightly more random? Do they also look like they've been very carefully placed?
They look just as carefully curated as the skeletons and their accoutrement. Fashath, could you do a wisdom roll, please? If you have perception, you can add it.
19.
19. On a 19, Thashath is able to spot that beneath these curated items in these cabinets on these shelves, every single shelf bears a small pressure plate. Every single item is exactly where it should be. Moving even the slightest artifact could trigger something, but you don't know what. It could be something as simple as an alarm. It could be something as elaborate as consuming the entire room in flame, although it seems unlikely. Also, on that successful roll, it is possible to find in one of the cabinets a whole set of potions and tinctures. Now, whether these are healing potions or not depends on whether they have been marked up correctly, but several of them, but not all, do bear labels that call themselves things like good for your health, and resistance to flame, and invulnerability against the poisonous fangs of the Naga.
Well, I'm sure that's not a trap, I say to myself, and then I relay this to Kadar and to Attila. We have to be very careful about what we pick up from here. Everything, you see, there are pressure plates. Everything we take will trigger something. We have to just take the things that we really need, and if we can, perhaps make some kind of switch with something of equal weight, so that the plate remains in the same position. It'll be very, very difficult, but I suppose we have to try.
Are you suggesting we remove the entire armor while putting another on him?
Well, I think it's the weight. This armor. Is there a pressure plate underneath the skeleton here as well?
No, not that you can see. Underneath the skeletons, there appears to just be solid stone or iron plinths.
The skeleton itself might still have some kind of spell or magic on it, I suppose, but we really have no choice. We have to take this armor. We must have it. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any point in even trying to escape from here. The dragon will have what he needs to have, so one of us just needs to take it. I'm sorry, I don't think it should be me.
You don't think you can disable the trap somehow?
He might be able to disable the shelf traps, yes, maybe, but the problem is this armor, Attila. That needs to come off, and we have no idea what will happen when it does.
I'll pull out my great sword from my back sheath, and I'll very gently poke the old skeleton of Brunus the Unsung.
The skeleton bursts into motion as soon as you touch it with your blade. It draws its own sword from behind its back, holds it clasped in both hands. And if it were possible for a skeleton to draw breath and then hiss, it would. It opens its jaws and lets out a rattle that a skeleton should not. A breathy, dirty, ancient rattle. Small green flames illuminate in its eye sockets, and it swings its blade down at you for having poked it. What is your armor class?
18.
18. Okay, let's do initiative, as I'm going to say this doesn't take you entirely by surprise, but just for you for the time being.
9.
So you roll a 9. Brunus the Unsung has rolled a 12, and so he swings his blade down towards you in immediate reprisal. A hacking, cleaving blow with no elegance or grace, just the kind of slice that has deigned to go between someone's neck and shoulder and hopefully cut down to their heart, although hopefully not in this case. Thankfully, your armour, or maybe just your resilience, withstands the blow. You manage to step aside at just the right time. Your armor class is sufficient to avoid its first strike, as the sentinel, the undead guardian, Brunus the Unsung, climbs down from the plinth, greatsword in both hands, armor bolted to its body, as it lets out another rattle of death. Let's take initiatives from everyone now. You can keep the same one if you want, but I wouldn't recommend it.
23.
24.
21.
Okay, you all go ahead of Brunus, who is now on a 15. Let's start with our 24.
Then I shall try to maneuver behind somehow so that I can do a backstab against a sneak attack against this foe.
So you go for it.
All right. I shall do that, and I maneuver behind it, and I take out my scimitar, and I go to slash it. I roll a 25.
Your scimitar connects. It doesn't just connect. You obviously find a gap in the armor and manage to strike the skeleton's bones. What damage are you rolling?
22.
22. That's an impressive blow with the scimitar as you cleave in to Brunus's spine. Brunus doesn't react with pain. He is, after all, already dead. But he does recline suddenly, his spine straightening as the rattle emerges from his mouth again.
And then I take a bonus action after that to move away, to dash away from him.
Probably wise.
And I end my turn.
Next up.
I, first of all, look around the rest of the room. Is he the only skeleton coming to life?
He is the only skeleton coming to life, but he isn't the only motion in this room. With the skeleton of Brunus the Unsung stepping off of his plinth, your eyes at one point go back to the escape route, maybe out of an act of self-preservation, maybe just covering your bases, and what you can see are the symbols around it are starting to move of their own accord, slowly shifting into a different formation.
I blink a little and go, "Oh no, you don't!" And I use my move to move all the way back to those sigils, dashing if I have to, actually. And I'm gonna use my action to try and stop them. I'm like, no, you stay where you are.
You get the impression, and you're somehow becoming more acquainted with these symbols, maybe because you had your fingertips on them in a moment of great duress. Maybe it's something about the Sluresians' renowned psionics, their abilities of telepathy and telekinesis. Something is buried in your brain that wakes up as you start to manipulate these symbols. It feels to you there's a connection, not with heat or cold this time, but to a different elemental plane, a plane of earth. And immediately you're wondering what could the elemental plane of earth do to us down here, except you then of course realise you're underground. And this place could just be a big tomb.
Indeed. No. It needs to stay balanced. You need to stay balanced. And I kind of start trying to force the runes back, or at least stop them moving. Of course, I imagine now that's the end of my turn.
Yes, I am going to ask you to make a strength roll, which I know you are particularly poor at.
Well, it's not a natural one, but with the -3, it's a 1.
You find the symbols are dragging your fingers more than the other way round. So who's up next?
Having just had my tunic sliced by the top of this great sword brought down by Brunus the Unsung, I am very much focused on him as my foe. I start raging. Blood is starting to pour down from under my eye patch, and froth is starting to show on the sides of my mouth at a moment's notice as I attack recklessly against Brunus the Unsung.
Now I'm going to make a call here. If you fail this attack in your reckless berserker rage, you may well knock one of the other skeletons.
And since I'm attacking recklessly, I have advantage on melee weapon attack rolls, but all attack rolls against me have advantage as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so, my bad roll was a natural 1, but my good roll was 21.
21, so that's 2 above his armor class. You are able, with your advantage, thankfully for you, to connect with Brunus and not with one of his skeletal compatriots. Your blade goes down into the skeleton's chest, and for a split second you think you have actually cut through his armour as you hear something shatter. Actually, your blade, despite your frenzy, is in such a precision place you have managed to split the crack between the plates in his armour. And if this undead sentinel were alive, you would have probably broken his sternum and collapsed the man's chest. You yank the blade free.
Feeling the connection with my blade, as I yank it free, I swing about in a second blow. My best roll there was 20.
20, still sufficient. And so this time, how much damage is your blade doing?
9.
It's not as good a hit, but it's what you need. As the greatsword with your second swing, as you swing in your almost mindless, aimless rage, doesn't connect with the body as you have always been trained, as you've always been taught. In your wild swing, the blade connects with the head of Brunus the Unsung and shatters the skull of the skeleton. You know very little about necromancy as a barbarian. You don't know what drives a skeleton to get up and fight again. Certainly you've heard rumours of all the power being locked in the skull, but that doesn't tend to be for animated bones as much as other creatures. Still, the weight of your greatsword shattering the skull of this undead warrior is enough to make him fall to his knees, for a rattle to emerge from his chest, for him to collapse to the ground, armour clanking as he falls. Kadar, over by the chute. Your will to work these symbols is failing you. You can feel the air growing thicker. The combatants a short distance away from you haven't noticed it yet, but you can feel the air growing grimy, as if your skin is coated in oil. And everything seems to be darkening. That pink hue in the air is just dimming and dimming.
And it's not stopping. There's no time. I can't stop the runes that are moving. The only hope I have. I'm going to try and move other runes. Maybe I can at least confuse things. The one that I thought was room, because it does seem as if the other one was temperature. Let's see if we can adjust that one then, because that one isn't being moved. Yes, maybe while whatever this thing is trying to stop me doing is doing it, I can throw a spanner in. But as I do this, I look to the others, I see the fight just ending, and I just in those seconds say, "Get the armor and we run! We have to leave now!" And I try pushing that room rune.
Hearing this, but what about the Shield of Poppies? I rush off to try to get the shield.
Very good. Kadar, could you roll an intelligence, please?
Yes, I shall roll intelligence and add arcana. 18.
You think that you are able to hold this rune in place, but you don't think you're going to be able to lock it in place. You think you're going to be able to slow down whatever's happening, but you're not going to just be able to prevent it. And what this tells you is, while you and a companion or two of your companions may be able to slide back up this chute, it is a very shallow slope with the armour. One of you may need to stay behind to keep the passage open.
In that moment of thinking, something occurs to me. The tunnel itself was rather short, wasn't it? It didn't actually take long to get down here, did it?
No.
Okay. I call out, "Attila! Quick! Armor by exit! You go! Fasaf, where are you going, you moron? Get out! I can get it out of here, but you two need to go now!"
All right. And I run back, and I do as you say, because I do what Kadar says.
Hearing this panic draws me out of my rage. I feel an instant fatigue, but it went fairly quickly, the fight after all. I see the
skeleton crumble in front of me, can I carry this with me, the armor? I'm very strong after all, but how best would I do this?
You can carry it with you, and while it would take a long time typically to collect up the pieces of armor such as this, because it was all riveted onto a skeleton, it is all still strung together. It can essentially be carried in one piece. You have a couple of options. You can adorn the armor yourself, which would be easier than it typically would to wear full plate because it's already strung together. Essentially, it would be over your head. Or you can carry it. You don't know what magical effects might occur by wearing it.
I have not worn much armor before, as it's never been my preference, though I have been trained in it.
If you carry it, you cannot defend yourself.
No, that is true. If I think that I could quickly get this on, because of how it is constructed, then I will slip it off the skeleton and on to me.
Very good. So Thashath and Kadar are over by the chute entrance. Is Thashath exiting first?
Yeah. Kadar told me to go, so I'm going.
Thashath, as you make your way up the chute, it's still a slippery slope, but you're able to climb up with relative ease. You feel like the walls here are growing tighter. The passage is far narrower than it was before. This entire thing seems to be locking up, as if the fortress, the citadel, is shifting again.
What's going on? And I just try to make my way up and get out of that room at the very least, or get out of that chute.
You emerge into the chamber where you were before, next to the skinned body of your former companion. Meanwhile, back down in the vault, Attila has been able to adorn this armour that's part metal, part ceramic, part bone, and march stoically toward the chute.
I've got it. And I'm able to take my things, what little I had with me, leaving possibly only my old torn tunic behind. And are things sort of coming together even now? Nothing changed from me donning the armor.
You feel stronger and more resilient, one could say. Your entire body temperature is cooled, despite everything that's just happened to you, all the trauma your skin has been through, and your muscles. You feel relaxed. Your mind hasn't by any means lost its edge, but your body is no longer feeling as stressed as it did, which is surprising given that you're wearing a full plate suit.
It's a fantastic feeling. We must get out of here.
You feel climbing up this chute is going to be a bit of a struggle with this armour on, so I'm going to make you make a dexterity roll, please.
And despite being clunked down by this heavy armour, being a Slytherin, I am also a contortionist. I am a specialist in getting through bonds, grapples, or even tight spaces.
You are. So while your dexterity is at -3 for wearing this armour, you do gain an advantage.
16 then.
You clamber and climb your way up the passage, and Thashath is able to see you trying to squeeze out. Thashath is probably going to have to pull you, or try, to get you out of there.
And I move up to him and I start pulling him out. Come on, Attila.
Strength roll, please. The walls are literally closing in around him.
14.
14. It's enough. It is just enough to allow the bulky Slytherin to climb out of this passage. And that just leaves Kadar in the vault, which is steadily becoming a conduit to the plane of Earth.
Yes, I need to go, and I'm going to go. But just before I do, I take literally 1 second to look around. Was there anything I saw on the shelves that was tiny? I mean, like the size of a gemstone or a ring, or was it all quite large objects?
There were tiny artifacts there as well, plenty of gems, plenty of rings.
Very well then. I cast my cantrip, Filch, to instantly move from 30 feet away, one pound or less object, which then appears immediately in my hand. I don't even look at what it is. I don't care. But I just needed something. And then the second whatever it is in my hand, I rush to the exit, and I'm going to try and cast Misty Step to see the exit, hopefully, and just instantly appear out. I hope this happens.
I'm going to make you roll for that, because it's you're rolling basically under duress right now. You do successfully filch the item, whatever it was, and as soon as you do, you hear a high-pitched trill throughout the air in this room and possibly in other rooms, as if a magical alarm just went off. Could you roll an intelligence, please?
17.
17 is sufficient. You take the form of mist just briefly and emerge just as the passage behind you clenches shut.
I stretch my legs as if feeling internally how it would have been to just have been consumed by that sheer amount of earth and walls, and I nod thankfully towards the shaft. You got me out. I thought I was done for.
It wasn't me, it was Mormo. But I don't think we're out of trouble just yet. We have to still get out of here, and we didn't get everything we needed. We're gonna be living on the run.
I flex my fingers in the gauntleted hands. This feels incredible.
I'm glad you're enjoying your armor. Now let's move. At this point, can I still hear the shrill alarm-like sound?
You've never experienced anything quite like this before, Kadar. The transmutation of sound into gas. This is magic in its oldest, most purified form. Transmutation at an elemental level. There's a reason this entire fortress, this entire citadel is constructed on portals. And it's because it's partly that magic that keeps the parts of the Titan beneath it in containment. The noise wasn't an alarm, it was the wakening groan of whatever is beneath this citadel. And the shrill noise that you could hear, you start to see pockets of gas just billowing out of the sky, like smoke, just puffed rings, just appearing all randomly around the room like spores. Yes, you are definitely sure that you need to get out of here immediately.
We need to run. Run! Run! And I start running.
Watch out for the traps!
As you run across, as Kadar, the panicking warlock, runs across the room, forgetting briefly about the pressure plates in the floor. Do a dexterity roll, please.
8.
As you hear watch out for the traps, from those massive anvils, those incredibly impractical workshop tools that you saw in this room before, you spot one of those hefty, great hammers just suddenly fling itself from the anvil and toward your head. Roll another dexterity. The first one was to see whether you triggered the trap. The second one is to see whether you can miss the hammer.
16.
16. You look at just the right moment. You flex your neck just at the split second to allow this hammer, larger than your head, to swing past you through the air and smash into the anvil on the other side.
I kind of just blink gulp, and obviously that stops me running, and I just go, Saf! Lead the way! Quickly!
Yeah, yes. I say, and I take the lead, remembering where the traps were, and trying to move quickly, but not too quick, through this field of traps that we have ahead of us.
And I snap out of my admiring the feeling that I have and follow.
taking your time a little more slowly now, despite the gas that's filling this room. You're about 2/3 of the way through when I'm going to require you to do a constitution roll. Each of you.
18.
18 is fine.
20.
20 is fine.
8.
8 is not fine. 2 of you managed to hold your breath for long enough. Attila, though, maybe it's just because he's still coming down from that rage. Can't help but take a deep breath. It's the tension of it all. Visibly, some of that noxious gas that was in the air disappears into his nostrils. You can carry on now.
I don't even notice as I quickly try and make my way through this first trap, and I'm really hoping we get to the blade soon. I do, however, quickly just say, "What did you find on Dread? What was the thing he had that helped us escape?"
There was a wand. I pull it up from my jacket or wherever I have on. It's this one.
All right, hand it over, quick.
And I do so.
And I'll take a moment to look at it. Do I feel anything from this wand? What sort of wand is it?
It is a wand of travel. Sorcerers in the employ of thieves often carry these wands simply for expeditious retreat.
Wonderful, but does that only work on... Is it something you cast on someone, or do you cast it on yourself?
You can cast it on someone else, but you, essentially, imagine the direction you're sending them into. They don't get to choose where they're going.
Right. And how many... Do these sort of things normally have charges?
They do indeed. It's impossible without analysis and time for that you do not have to work out how many charges this wand has.
Right, okay, well, this could be very useful, but let's keep moving. Attila, stop being slow, hurry up.
I don't have time to pause, but a small sensation of worry and anticipation fills me as this happens, and I don't feel anything immediately.
A swirling cloud of almost mist-like smoke just trails around Attila's ankles and knees. No one's looking down there, but it's as if he has a cloak of smoke behind him. As you emerge into the room that was at one point the corridor bedecked by devil knights, you find yourself in a room that you've never even entered before. It's a staircase and it's heading up.
Wonderful.
Up is good.
What? Closet!
Unfortunately, nowhere to be seen.
And heard.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start running up. I hope he is getting out of here as well.
You run up the stairs. Now I'm going to make you roll... I think, Attila, I'm going to make you make this roll. For all intents and purposes, this is a luck roll. In a shifting citadel, it is basically a puzzle box. There's no way of knowing where you're going to emerge when the pieces realign. This roll is going to determine, based on a chart available to me, where you are going to emerge. Attila, bearer of the armour and bearer of the smog of Golthaga, make a charisma roll, please. It's a straight, even chance. You have no modifier on your charisma.
13.
13. Perhaps lucky, as you don't find yourself in a chamber full of carnivorous mutants that were long buried underneath the citadel as extensions of Golthaga's consciousness. Instead, you find yourself emerging into the courtyard of the citadel. You do not know how this chamber moved up several floors across and exited straight here, but here you are. And luckily for you, the smoke that's in the air here has sent the guards into such a panic and such action that they don't immediately notice the three of you emerging into the bright daylight.
I look around, noticing we're above and guards, and instinctively I quickly cast Disguise itself. I'm going to do a very simple illusion here. I want to look like one of these people. At least be dressed in their armour.
Then you can do so.
I do so, and I suddenly, to you two, pop into existence as a humanoid-looking guard. That's for the extent of my disguise, to be honest. And with this, I quickly just sort of look to both of you and say, "We need to find the walls. We're in the courtyard. We need to get out of here. To the sea. To the sea."
I blink with my healthy eye at the sun as another strand of blood is running down from beneath the eye patch. Yes, I look around. Is there any visible path that leads towards, say, ports or anything out?
Yes, it is not difficult to find. You are able to make your way through the many portcullises toward one of the several docks that lies on the outside of the citadel. It's a journey that takes you an excruciating 10 minutes to get there because of the winding paths through these citadel walls. But due to the sheer chaos that you have unleashed down below, no one is paying a couple of Asathi and one Slytherin much attention at all, except for one individual on the docks. A woman is standing there. She was just loading up a boat and turns to see the three of you. She is clad in armour similar to what Attila is wearing right now. Her eyes narrow. And who in the hells are you?
I go forward quickly in my disguise, hold up a hand and say, "Friend, I know it seems weird, but I can explain everything." And
Friend, I am your lady commander.
As I was saying this, I got to her and she says that. I was trying to get as close as possible with my hands sort of raised. How far have I gotten?
I'm going to say you're within 15 feet of her.
15 feet. I stop. Blink a few times. "Lady Commander, I'm sorry. Everything is so... What's happening?" I'm looking to the other two. What are they doing?
Is there any place for me to hide, or have I been thoroughly spotted?
You are both thoroughly spotted. It is your duty, if indeed you are a guard, to defend the citadel, and whoever the rest of the two of you are, indeed, and she looks at Attila, wearing the armour of one of my predecessors, you are safer within the citadel. There are giants beneath the water. If you take your chances on there, you will be branded a coward, a deserter, and food for the giants.
Why are the giants here now?
Have you not seen the disruption in the citadel? They are drawn to chaos.
That makes sense.
I know that the three of you could overpower me, whoever you are, thieves most likely of the Triangle. Well, you're free to take my boat, if escape is what is on your mind. But you will not survive crossing the blossoming sea.
But escape is what is on our mind. And I start moving towards the boat.
I frown a little, and I just sort of briefly fiddle with the wand I have by my side, and I say, "My Lady Commander, I'm sorry. Cowards we are. Godspeed to you, though." And I jump to the boat as well.
I look back and forth, unsure, thinking that what she's mentioning now must surely be what Osborne was talking about, the flayed giants. I ask her, what do you suggest we do?
I suggest you stay here and fight. Frankly, I don't care if you live or die if you decide to abandon us in our time of need.
Well, I'll bloody well stay and fight then.
I give Attila a little look from the boat and go, "Attila, it's very brave of you to die here when you could escape."
I'm not going down there with some bloody flayed giants going up underneath me.
"I have it handled."
You have?
"Yes, get in the boat quickly."
I'll get in the boat.
Cowards. Cowards, all three of you. Remember, I will mark your faces. Even though she hasn't actually seen Kadar's.
I nod gravely in my guard uniform Indeed, milady, indeed.
She strides back into the citadel. The air around it is growing quickly thick with smoke.
Right. Fasaf, begin rowing. We need to leave now. If my plan is to work, we only have one chance. At this point, purely out of curiosity, what did I actually manage to collect?
Time for your own luck roll. I like using charisma for luck, so you have an advantage. A significant one.
Which is 19, 20, 21, 23.
Well, aren't you just lucky? The item that you extract is like a compass, but with wings attached. Ornately carved golden wings. You've seen these devices before. They're used for travelling great distances. They're one use only, and then they dissolve into your hand into a pile of gold dust.
What it takes you somewhere, but where? Where does it... Is it a teleport artifact or spell, or it goes wherever you wish?
It will take you back to where the designer of this artifact built it and imbued it with magic.
Oh, that's interesting. I just say aloud as we are moving on the boat. What else is happening?
What else is happening as the citadel that's swiftly disappearing behind you is barely visible now. It's now just a big pillar of smoke that's emerging not just from the land but the water around it, which bubbles and roils. And you can see the water turning red with blood in places, and you're not sure whether it's because people are trying to swim away from the citadel and being grabbed by some of the sea creatures, or whether it's because the flayed giants in the water around here are starting to move. After all, flayed giants are known to bleed constantly. They are drawn to others who enjoy the skin of living creatures.
I see. Fasaf, keep rowing.
Yes, Kadar. Not having much expertise on a boat, except for what we just experienced getting out of here, I do my best to help out and get this thing moving.
One of the giants emerges from the water behind the prow of the boat.
This was the moment I was waiting for. This is going to decide how things go. I say, let me try this first, and then I try plan B. I withdraw the wand of escaping. I point it at the giant and wish the giant to escape a very far away into the direction of the citadel.
The magic works. The giant disappears, the boat rocks, and you look behind you and you hear a whoo as the giant collapses, emerges, emanates from the ground. You're not sure what, because it's all wreathed in smoke, but clearly this is not what the giant was expecting, or the people around it, as you hear screams and the clash of battle.
Keep rowing, Fasaf, row!
Yes.
As the trouble at the citadel draws all the attention from hostile aquatic life, the rowing slows. Eventually you reach your own vessel, where Osborne is sleeping, completely oblivious to everything that's just gone on. You clunk your boat against hers.
I get up onto our original boat and I give her a shove. Wake up, you drunkard! We need to get out of here!
Oh, you made it. Excellent. Oh, wonderful, you got the armour. Hey.
We've got it! Let's go!
She helps each of you aboard, and then, through deft use of her own magic as a sea mage, she enables her boat, the boat that you all share, to travel through the water speedily, gracefully, avoiding any further dangers, zipping through the water as if it was marine life itself.
I turn to Kadar. You might want to get rid of that. And I poke the smouldering old skin of Dread. I don't know if they can recognize it, but it's not pretty.
I look down at the skin. Most of it, which I imagine has at least some fallen off with all the running movement, but yes, I quickly slink out of it, being left in just my small clothes and of course, my rod and my little pack.
And gore.
Oh, much gore indeed.
The epilogue. Our party reaches the shore near Lodok. Osborne isn't foolish enough to take your boat straight into that town. She's quite happy. She has seen a crew almost entirely survive, and she doesn't ask any questions about Dread. You're not sure whether she noticed the tattoo of the silver triangle on the skin that you had on just briefly, or whether she even cares. She's just satisfied that she's been able to bring fellow sailors to shore again. She doesn't even ask for payment, until she sees you fondling that winged compass. I don't suppose, and it may be a bit to ask, I suppose I could keep that.
Here's the thing. I'd love to say yes, but this might be the only thing that stops at least some assassins coming after us. Might not stop all of them, but this is very valuable. I know the Shield of Poppies was priceless, but this is very valuable as well.
Well, that leaves me out of pocket. But I tell you what, it's been such fun. I won't hold it against you, my brave companions.
Well, Osborne, you could take this. And I hand over the ring from Dread. It was one of Dread's few possessions that he left behind when he got impaled on one of those traps.
Oh, that's beautiful, beautiful. I'm sure that would look lovely. Well, safe travels to you, she says, and heads back to the nearest tavern, leaving the three of you. Now, we won't see what happens when you meet up with your employer, the Fire-Rack Dragon. We won't see how that exchange goes with Rose Rock. Whether he just devours you, and the armour as well, his quest complete. We won't see, just yet, how the House of Hara responds to your treachery, as they would see it, and indeed how they pass message among other Asathi houses of how you failed them after stealing one of their boats and maps. We won't see, at least not yet, how the Citadel of Vilhaim emerges after Golthaga's internal organs awoke underneath it. We won't know if these characters survive. Not immediately. What that does mean is that we will have a part 2. Not yet, but we will. We'll find out what happens to this unfortunate trio of reprobates, whether they ever find their riding lizard again, whether they ever receive payment for their ill-gotten gains. One thing we do know is that they survived the Great Vilhaim Heist.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Role-Playing, where we play the adventure The Great Vilhaim Heist for Scarred Lands for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Our Dungeon Master was the Gentleman Gamer, Matthew Dawkins, and we would like to thank him and Onyx Path Publishing for doing this actual play production together with us. The music was made by Ager Sonus and Lesa Listvi, and was used with permission from their label, Cryo Chamber. You can find more delicious dark ambient at cryochamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel. If you want to support Red Moon Roleplaying, do check out our Patreon. The show would not be possible without all the generous support we are getting there. You give us so much energy, help us cover our costs, and open up time to record and edit. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And remember, praise Mormo.